Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to this other edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. This evening, we are going to be looking at the notion of blame games ongoing with respect to the Anglophone crisis. We know that persons are still dying in the southwest and northwest regions, and more than 5 years into the conflict, no end in sight. But every day we have one side, one faction, one part of the population blaming the other instead of looking for concrete ways out of the impasse. What is wrong with us that we decide to be blaming each other instead of considering the plight of the common man suffering the brunt of the conflicts in these conflict-stricken regions of the northwest and southwest? We also are going to be looking at a situation that is happening in Kumba, chief town of Meme division, where we are told that Cameroonian is not very comfortable. He's in conflict with the city mayor of Kumba because of land. We also note that last week we were called to Kumba, to Boya, to witness a similar incident where persons were practically thrown out of their homes because another person was claiming the land. What is wrong with lands in Cameroon, particularly the southwest region and Kumba, to be precise? We are discussing these two topics with our panelists who are in the house. Our permanent consultant, Apostle Ambe, Valentine Ngwa, is in the house with us. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, my co-panelists. Good evening, Cameroonians, and welcome to today's edition of Prime Hour. Anglophone crisis, still the subject to be discussed.
Also with us is Dr. Ernest Laluh, Effim, who is a senior lecturer of history in the University of Boya. He is a political analyst and civil society advocate. He is a youth leader. Oh, yes. Okay. Youth leader, we are glad to have you.
Mr. Leo, it's a pleasure for me to be here to share the little I know with eminent barrister, Professor Ashu. It's the first time seeing you face to face and meeting on this platform. With Pastor Ambe, we've met at least once, if not twice. I just hope that together with you, we would add the stock of knowledge to Cameroonians and provide them with what it takes to make informed decisions.
Okay. We are also in the company of the national president of the Reform Party, senior barrister Ashu Emmanuel. He's been away for some time. You probably asking. He was not too well. We thank God he regained his health and his life in the studio with us. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Dr. Laluh. Good evening, Apostle Ambe. Good evening, televiewers. A pleasure having you once again. I hope we're going to enjoy the debate.
Okay. Apostle Ambe, Valentine, more than 5 years into a conflict. When you look at it, nobody today is saying that I am responsible for this. I take the blame for this. 5 years after, are we toying with the lives of people, or we actually do not note that we are wasting time, we are wasting lives, we are wasting property?
Yeah, Mr. Leo, initially when the crisis started, all of us thought that we had the same initiative, we had the same drive, we had the same vision. We had an Anglophone crisis, but suddenly out of the Anglophone crisis, something like an octopus was born. It came out with so many heads, you're unable to lay your hands actually where the real head is found right now. We have several factions and movements from the same crisis, which is the number one challenge first before the principal enemy in question. I think 5 years gone down, we have lost a lot for us to still be dancing with the destinies of people. We are dancing with children's education, dancing with the lives of individuals, the military, the civilians, as well as the separatist fighters who are in the bushes, as well as the individuals who are the diaspora, who have been denied the privilege to come back to their homeland, which is their fatherland. All those feelings of nostalgia they have, and they cannot meet up with it, is a serious challenge to almost every person. I talk with most people who are abroad, and they are really desiring to come back home, but unfortunately a lot of it placed on them as embargoes not to come back home. By themselves, they are afraid to come back home. So you discover that we've lost a lot of things put in place. Now, for 5 years, my challenge is that we have graduated from the level of I. We should come to a place of we. We. The challenge has been I am Skakuf. I am Sokadef. I am ADR. I am Ambassador. I. If we don't break out of that I, we're going to face serious problem, because the challenge you have right now is the I subject. I am this, I am that, I am this. When Ikomisako comes up, I am the IG. When Ajabajo comes up, I am this. When Akwanga comes up, I am this. When John Akuro comes up, I am this. When Tumfambo Hebel comes up, I am this. Can we not come to a place that we say we are this? I think if we graduate from that I and enter into we, all the energies dispersed will be collectively gathered to approach and achieve a particular aim. And if at all we don't know the consequences and the impact of the I syndrome in the crisis, I will outline a few of them. The I is the reason why our children have not been able to go to school for 5 years. The I syndrome is the reason why businesses have collapsed in the Northwest and the Southwest. The I is the reason why growth and development has been retarded in the Northwest and the Southwest. The I is the reason why people have died in their thousands in the Northwest and the Southwest. The I is the reason why there is no peace in the Northwest and the Southwest. The I is the reason why Macron comes to Yaoundé and there is ghost town in Bamenda, thereby making Tiko to drink and Kumba gets drunk. The I syndrome has caused so much damage on every single Southern Cameroonian. And I think it's time for us to get out of this I syndrome and harness our energy together, build a particular vision, and then target what we want. If not, then we are going to be playing to the drums of the enemy throughout.
Okay. Dr. Laluh, are you as concerned as Apostle just hinted there that since the advent of the ongoing crisis in the Southwest and Northwest regions, nobody is taking responsibility as saying that this is my fault, this is where I went wrong? Positions are still same.
Yeah, that explains the protracted nature of the conflict. We live in a country where everybody claims to be the saint. Nobody is assuming responsibility, and in fact the conflict is polarized, and each of the poles says they're right. There's no movement from either side. I mean, real movement. And so that explains why, I mean, this is 6 years plus, if not mistaken. And from all indications, the positions that have been taken, there is little, thing to suggest that there is a small movement in position. And I think that is regrettable because, like Apostle Ambe says, if you look at the negative consequences of all of that, in terms of human life and property lost, in terms of the focusing on buying arms and ammunition to kill our fellow compatriots, it is sad and regrettable. And I think that there is need for us to change the approach.
There is need to change the approach, Barrister Ashu Emmanuel. Can we understand why nobody is owning up to take responsibility for what the people are going through in the Southwest and Northwest regions? Almost everybody says they're right.
Yeah, Mr. Leo, I am more comfortable with Southern Cameroon's civil war. I don't think this is a crisis, because if you have a crisis where the language that is spoken is that of guns, cartridges, armored cars, I mean, that is not a crisis, it's a civil war. So I think it is time we call this thing what it is. It is not a crisis, it's a civil war. Now, coming back to your question, I think we have to give praises where they belong. I want to commend the government for coming out to take responsibility for the Gabu massacres. Because contrary to what you said, I mean, on that occasion, they came out and said, yes, it was done by soldiers. But I would have expected on the other side that groups that commit atrocities also come out, own up, and say, yes, we did it. That would have been good. Now, for the interest of the people, you see, what we are having here, it is not one person, a family or a group of persons that are losing. Everybody in Cameroon is losing big time. Look, I don't remember one family in this country that has not lost a person.
No, of course.
Not even one family, no family who can claim not to have lost somebody. If you have not had a family living in the war zone, then you have your brothers and sisters who are in the military or who are Ambe people. You have casualties. Now, the big problem here, this civil war has brought untold hardship to the entire nation. Untold hardship. CDC is down to his knees. Pamol down to his knees. Sonara on his knees. Now, GCAM came out and said, we have lost a great, about 25% of the GDP. That is a very heavy loss. So, who is not doing what he is supposed to do? We should call a spade a spade. Now, the government knows what the problem is. They know that the problem, this is not a political crisis. You see, I earlier had some position to say this is a political crisis. I think I have to take a new position because that is not correct. This crisis is not political. It is a legal crisis. I will explain. Now, if you look at what happened in 1961, because we should not fool ourselves that something happened in Fumban or something happened in 1972. The thing happened in 1961, where the Parliament of the Republic of Cameroon single-handedly voted into law the draft constitution that the Southern Cameroonians were refusing to sign. And that became the federal constitution. That is where things went wrong. From then, Southern Cameroon has found itself swallowing down everything that has been done by the Republic of Cameroon. So that is where the trouble went wrong. Now, the government knows that we all are aware today that that is what went wrong. So why don't they do what is necessary for peace to return? There are two states. Put them back on the table. Let us discuss. Let's discuss and iron out our issues and stop killing each other for nothing. That is the problem. I mean, we should stop playing hypocrisy. We all know what the trouble is. It is not Ahijo in 1972. No, it is 1961 when they single-handedly drafted a federal constitution, adopted it, and called it the Constitution of 1st September. He did from Foncha, imposing on Southern Cameroon, and today we find ourselves in front of what they call the fait accompli. So the solution here is for the government to do the needful. Call your children around the table, let us sit down and iron this problem. As I said, it's a legal problem because take the present day constitution. Inside that constitution, it is said, at least Article 45, all international treaties and agreements must be ratified by the parliament. Otherwise, they're not valid. Now, you had two states. If there was an agreement between the two, it ought to be ratified. There was no agreement. Instead, one state went on, in violation of the UN resolutions, 1514, they went and single-handedly decided on a constitution that they imposed on the other. It's wrong. We all know it is wrong.
Senior Vice, I will need to do a debate between you and a historian to ascertain what you are saying. Yes, but is this not also?
I had agreed that meeting with Professor Julius Ngwa.
Okay, I pray we are going to have it. Yes, but is this not actually where we are today, where we say, okay, Ahijo did wrong, Foncha did wrong, and it continues because nobody wants to go back to what our forefathers did.
Mr. Laluh, should everybody die because the previous generation made a mistake? Should everybody die because the previous generation made a mistake?
That is the problem. That's my question.
That is the question we should be asking right now.
Yes.
Cameroon is like a drowning man whose only hope is the tail of a crocodile. You will definitely have to hold the tail of that crocodile to survive out of that water drowning you. We don't need to go and find out who caused the error yesterday. We should be looking for a solution right now so that atrocities do not continue. Should we wipe out an entire race or a group of persons or a particular region in the country because some people obviously made a mistake? The question is, How many years was that mistake made? It was made since 1961. This is 2021. If the error was not corrected, 2022, sorry. If the error was not corrected, I guess more than 61 years ago, why shouldn't we look for a present-day solution to solve the problem rather than holding on to something that the people who caused the error died? I cannot keep on brooding over my father's error because he launched my family into poverty. I hang on that error and then I become poor. I should be devising a means to walk out of that dilemma, not to hang on what happened yesterday. I don't want us to bring Foncha here. Foncha is no more. Listen, somebody said the world is ruled by dead men. Marxism is the idea of a dead man. Communism is the idea of a dead man. Democracy is the idea of a dead man. And people are still ruled today by dead men. Should we continue to be ruled by dead men? If the idea of 1961 and 1972 was born by Ahijo is dead, how can the living be controlled by what a dead man left behind? Are they telling us that the intellectuals of this generation are not intelligent enough to devise new strategies to better off the errors that were committed yesterday? That's an advancement in technology.
Yes, but yeah, you say you agree with him, but you are holding on to 1961. You want 1961 to be revisited. No, you're going back to Foncha, you're going back to Ahijo, you're going back to everything. Is it possible today?
Yes, yeah. I think that for a proper diagnosis and therapy, you need to go back.
Okay.
The ideas that you made reference to, ideas of Karl Marx, they have been fine-tuned to meet the change realities of today. What we are saying, when we make reference is made to the past, it is not to remain in the same position. It is to enable you understand just where things went wrong. And now that understanding and the magnitude of the problem, looking at its consequences, should give us a platform to articulate the way forward.
Okay.
Now, you see, it is said, when people say it's a mistake, I don't think they were mistakes.
Okay.
They were calculated and deliberate attempts made.
Good. I like that.
You see, power was in this other side of the Mongo.
What do you want to do?
Are you with me?
They scammed you.
Power was in this other side of the Mongo. And what happened? There were machinations on the Constitution so that the power remains here. Going by the Kumba Constitution and the unspeakable words that were behind, the philosophy behind, suggests that there was going to be a kind of representation.
Was Kumba a draft or a constitution?
well, it was a draft, which, like Barrister said, was ratified on this other side of the Mongo, while in the state of West Cameroon, nothing like that took place. And Barrister? And so...
Nothing was signed at Kumba.
Yes. And so, Barrister, in a sense, is right to say that it is not a... it is not political, but I think it is a political crisis that has legal implications. Okay? Political in the sense that when you look at the power structure in the territory since 1961, okay, and you see the positioning in terms of state protocol, I mean from second position right down to fifth, maybe, I don't know, if sixth, you realize that it is not a mistake like some of us are saying. It is deliberate, in my opinion. Okay? Because it's done consciously. Unfortunately, since we don't have representation, since the people go into parliament don't speak for their constituencies, they speak for the prince. Okay? It has been difficult for them to boldly stand up and say that, no, this was not arrangement. Okay? And so we find ourselves in this mess.
Now, when you say this was not the arrangement, and you say it was calculated, but you are now referring to what Foncha and the rest failed to do. But you were not there.
Yes, I was not there. I wasn't born at the time.
You say that was not the arrangement.
Yes.
I don't know.
Can I
Are
chip
we, you know, yes.
Can I chip in?
Yes.
Now, let me say that when you say Foncha and others fail to do, it is wrong, because Foncha did nothing. I want people to understand this. Foncha did nothing wrong.
He's a victim instead.
Now look, I was privileged to study this part of our history when I was given the duty to do so by the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiations, and I brought out everything. I mean, you see, when the Southern Cameroonians were going to Fumban, before they went there, they had held the Manfe Constitutional Conference, where they had a common stand, and that common stand was confederation. That is what people fail to say, to tell you. The common stand they took was confederation, and that explains why, reaching Fumban, Foncha refused to sign anything, to sign the draft that Ahijo presented. Now, the English, who were behind the Republic of Cameroon, convened, they are the ones who convened the Yaoundé Constitutional Conference. Had Fumban been a success, there would have been no need for Yaoundé. In August 1961, there was the Yaoundé Constitutional Conference, at which the English participated. And when they found that the Southern Cameroon were adamant on confederation, the English told Ahijo to take that thing to his own parliament. So when you say Foncha did, what did Foncha do? He was in the, they were on the hall there. They knew nothing. They knew that nothing was happening. Ahijo, when I had that thing, voted by
he didn't say that Foncha did anything. They
modified.
I'm asking questions here.
Please.
Did not say Foncha did.
Look, they went and modified their constitution of 4th of March 1960, and styled this modification Federal Constitution of 1st of September 1961. Foncha did nothing inside. They did not even know that that constitution existed. In fact, on the 1st of October, the British commissioner took Foncha's hand and handed over to Ahijo in pursuance of the arrangement they had made.
Now, the British actually.
Hi, Commissioner. Yes, I have the pictures. See, when I can give you, he took Foncha's hand and handed it over to Ahijo. Foncha asked Ahijo, "What? When are we signing the Union Treaty?" He said, "Let's just be leaving like that. We shall do it later." So you see, it is a high-level conspiracy by the person who was asked to oversee the Union Treaty.
Okay, from blaming our forefathers here, because whether we like it or not, Foncha, Joa, and the rest, they were part of it, as well as Ahijo and the politicians from this side of Cameroon. But now he's moving into another level, bringing in the British, who actually oversaw whatever happened and endorsed whatever happened. There is also this blame now on France and Britain, but these guys have watched. They're playing Pontius Pilate here.
Mr. Liu,
Several you have heard the diplomats from. Yes.
I've heard the British diplomats say they do not want to be reminded of the errors of their past. It's not one.
They're not interested.
They are not interested. Don't take them to the errors of their past. In other words, nobody wants to live with yesterday. It is important to get the facts of yesterday so you can prepare the future. But you cannot live with yesterday's facts. The world is too digitized and is evolving in such a way that you cannot keep on holding on to a crime that was committed some years backward. My challenge is not the errors of what these guys did. What is this present generation doing to remedy the challenge? We should talk about what we need to do right now to remedy this error. A breed of Anglophones failed us. Consider that way. Put it that way. Because if I thought they were doing a constitution in the French parliament in this, or the east of the Mongo, I don't see how the constitution, I don't see how they follow it to come and carry out the referendum in 1972. If we accept that the constitution was changed in the French parliament and the people of Southern Cameroon were not aware, were they also flocked to carry out the referendum?
No, first it started with dissolving their parties in 1966. Yes,
that's what I'm talking. Ahijo formed a single party,
and they accepted to.
They accepted to it in 1966. Were they tied, flogged, or there was a we and yes to dissolve the parties?
Please, can I say something?
No,
historically. Okay.
Let me learn.
Okay.
I said here on the platform that true politics and genuine democracy in Cameroon died in 1966 with the birth of CNU. Why? Because English-speaking sector of the country was conducting genuine elections for people to ascend particular positions. Foncha was never appointed. Neither was Jua appointed. Okay. From the Littleton Constitution in 1954 in Nigeria, where they shifted and they had now the London Constitutional Conference of 1956-58, where we shifted from a quasi-regional status from Nigeria to a full regional status.
Lancaster House.
Are you getting what I'm saying? Before now, we came to the place of the issue of 1961 that we were supposed to join French Cameroon. I'm asking a question, till now I'm still asking that question, that where these people flocked to dissolve the KNDP, the KPP, the House of Chiefs, to join the CNU, Cameroon National Union, by Aidjo. Now, if you compare the politics of the West Cameroon and East Cameroon, it's two different politics. In 1958, their first Prime Minister, Andre Marimbida, was never voted, appointed. Amadou Aidjo came to power, there was no election. President Pobia right now in power, there was no election. Jua was voted. Foncha was voted, which means true multi-partism, which was an electoral system, was swallowed by an appointee system in 1966. Where were these individuals who carry out practical elections in southern Cameroon? Where were their heads before they were swallowed up by an appointee system in 1966? If we want to hold on to what happened yesterday, you see, as much as I love history, I'm a historian, but the truth is, history of yesterday only prepare us not to make the mistakes of yesterday in the future. Right now, I think from what you have gathered from 1966 till now, we should be setting up a structure to correct the errors of yesterday, not be brooding over what happened yesterday. What is Dr. Lula? What is Barrister Ashu? What is Apostle Ambe? What is LEONARD doing right now to remedy what happened in 1961?
Okay. No, come in. Yeah.
Yes, I think that Pastor Ambe, in as much as I agree with you in terms of your diagnosis of the problem, but you seem to be blaming the victim here. That is Southern Cameroonian politicians.
You didn't get
you seem to, as I said, you seem to be blaming the victim. Like I said earlier, it was not a mistake. I mean, the changes that were made to the Constitution and the political changes involving the one that
1966.
Yes,
but he's asking the question: were they flocked to dissolve their parties?
They were not flocked, but if you consider the disparity, the leverage in terms of power between a state which is really sovereign, okay, and a people who had independence through what? A plebiscite and a conditional independence, which means the decolonization of British South Cameroon did not follow the trajectory of other colonies or other trust territories. Are you getting me? That is to say that is why, in as much as we are trying to avoid the blame games, you cannot forge ahead without trying to apportion what mistake the UN did, what mistake the British and the other parties, including.
Yeah, but is that not exactly why we are still where we are? Because
conscious of this.
Yeah, let's take the case of the international community, the British, the French, and the UN. We've been talking about they are not interested in looking into this. What do you do?
Look, how do you bring them? They have never been interested in Africa. The imperialists.
Good.
They came to exploit, and when you're divided, they're even happy.
You see,
they find events to sell the ammunition, weapons, and all of that. They're happy. We are the ones to be interested to address our own problem. Cameroonian problem cannot be addressed from outside or by any other agency.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And so, I think the very victims have been struggling to address the problem. It is not a surprise that the first opposition party, after the reintroduction of multipartism, came from the Anglophone region. It's not a surprise. And what is the position of that party? I think federalism also, no mistake.
Of course.
Because they feel that structure of government will give them a platform to take the destiny into their hands to some extent. But now, power is in this other side. If you consider the fact that the two presidents that have ruled this country, and one that is still ruling, are from former East Cameroon, okay? And if you understand the power that are in the presidency, you understand why Anglophone so-called representatives, that's member of parliament, senators, and other people who hold, position of power, cannot raise their heads. Otherwise, they will be ejected from the system. So what I'm saying is this: the machinations that followed reunification, 66, 72, 84, is it 84? As such that fragilized and balkanized the Anglophone community.
So what do we do?
Now, like you said, the first opposition party in the 90s came from that side and was articulating what? Federalism as a way of undoing the harm. Besides that, there have been movements in former British South Cameroon, what we call SNC and others, which have crystallized into what? Metamorphosis armed groups. Was talking about what? Force of what? Is it argument?
Force of argument, not the argument of
yes.
force.
What does those who hold the power in the country do? Picking people up and locking them up.
Yeah.
So this thing, they have been starting to address the problem at their own level. Before things went wrong, when it took a military dimension, there have been approaches. That's political moves.
Yeah, but 2016, we are 2016, from 2016 to
those
2022.
are the measures.
Yes, 2022, senior barrister. I remember you sounded very confident that the US was going to come, and today you cited the British. Should we really still be blaming the British, the United Nations, and France for what we're going through? Or all of the energy that we've used to fight and push for them to come should have been channeled towards internal instances that could have done something better?
Thank you, Mr. Kum. Before I answer your question, let me just state something that escapes many Cameroonians.
Okay.
You see, the French don't seem to be, they don't seem to be very mindful of respecting the law.
Of course.
I'll take a simple example. Look, the French handed over independence they caused the UN to hand over independence to the Republic of Cameroon without a constitution. Can you imagine that? Republic of Cameroon had no constitution on the 1st of January when they had independence. Their constitution came in on the 4th of March 1960. So how can you have a territory that you want to be independent, that territory has no constitution on the day of independence? So it is not a problem to the French people, whether you have a constitution or you don't have. Their own system is, like he called it, the appointee system. So that one conflicts really with the Southern Cameroon system, which is based on,
pure democracy.
In history they say it is the first democracy in Africa.
Yes.
You're right. Yes.
All right.
Correct.
Now, when I was going back to 1961, Mr. Apostle said, we are crying over the mistakes of our foreparents. Look, I'm sorry, that was not my intention. My intention is to show you that it is a legal problem, because while that constitution was being amended in the Republic of Cameroon constitution, they forgot that Southern Cameroon also has a constitution. And because of that constitution today, this country is still suffering. We have two constitutions that are in application, about 4 constitutions that are being applied at the same time. So it's a real legal problem. Because if you go to section 68 of the current constitution, they tell you that all those rules and regulations and laws that don't infringe on this constitution remain in force. Why do you think nobody can touch our educational system, our legal system and all that? Why? Because they took their root from the Southern Cameroon constitution, which the constitution of this country today has no powers to undo. That's why I'm saying it is a legal problem, because you have to solve that legal problem for the country to be one, for the country to start breathing like one man. You cannot have a country where this has a constitution, that is put under the bed. This other one comes up with a constitution that is imposed on everybody. It cannot go. So that's why I was saying that we should sit on the table. They should rehabilitate the state of Southern Cameroon, because if you don't rehabilitate that state, who can undo its constitution? Nobody. You have to rehabilitate that state. Otherwise, nobody can touch that constitution. I showed you here that constitution last time. I have it. I can show you. If you don't rehabilitate that state, you cannot touch that constitution. So for this country to have to be talking like one man, that constitution has to be put back on the table, and then people will sit and say, okay, this one is not good, this one is good, let us maintain or let us change. That is how it is supposed to be. In my rhetoric, I forgot the question.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay, interesting.
I lost track of the question.
I forgot the question too.
Yes.
About Ambe, can you interpret the question?
Oh, interpret like him, Mr.
No. Actually, the question I had for you was whether we should keep blaming the French, the United Nations, and the British. Would that cause them to come? Because after 6 years, they seemingly are not interested. How do you keep blaming them?
Okay, thank you. I will not blame the United Nations as such, because the knowledge I have of history is that the then Secretary General of UN at that time, Dag Hammarskjöld, was opposed to this international conspiracy. We have excerpts of his speeches. He once said that Southern Cameroon was like a balloon. If you put it under the sea for 200 years, it will emerge one day. And you know what happened to him? He was killed in the Congo just after the plebiscite. So I think he cannot be blamed, because there was a conspiracy that was bigger than him. Since he wanted to raise his head up, they cut the head. Now, the French and the English.
So you think he was killed because of Cameroon?
He was killed now. It was they say plane crash, but we know the plane was gone down. Now, the French and the English. I said it earlier that the French and the English conspired. Let them excuse me. They conspired because we have pictures of the English High Commissioner holding Foncha's hand and giving it over to Ahidjo, after they had failed in the Constitutional Conference in Yaoundé, and they knew that Resolution 1608 Article 5 asked them to oversee a union treaty between the two. How could they be doing that? You see now, look, if there was no conspiracy, why would Britain do that type of thing?
Was there a union treaty between Northern Cameroon and Nigeria?
Sorry, nothing was prescribed in that direction. Now, Northern Cameroon was supposed to join Nigeria as an independent province. The two were not the same. Independent province. Southern Cameroon was look at that. Look at 1608. They say the government of Southern Cameroon. It is not a group of people. The government. It was considered a republic. So please don't mix the two. Northern Cameroon was an independent province. That they had the status of Southern Cameroon before 1961, like he rightly pointed out, after the second Lancaster House
London Constitutional Conference, 1958.
Lancaster in London, Lancaster in London. So after that, Southern Cameroon was the third independent province in the Federation of Nigeria.
So you say you will not blame the United Nations. You blame the
Britain and France.
Britain and France, but
that is going to change, because look at what is happening here today. The French president, he's coming here, he had so many reasons. One of them was a reassurance visit. He was coming to be reassured that our acquaintances with other people were not going to disturb the relations. But I asked the question, for how long? Because you look at Central Africa, you look at Mali, you look at Burkina Faso, it will not be too long, sir.
Yes, but
they have to review the position, otherwise they stand the risk of losing Central Africa.
Okay, they may lose Central Africa, but that's not our focus for today. Yeah. Apostle Ambe, we are still talking about the blaming here. A lot of hope has been given to people on the need for the international community to come, and they said that the United Nations should come and fix what they spoiled, and that France should look into this, Britain should look into this. We have seen high-profile diplomats in the likes of Thibault Nage, who said that the French have a strong influence on Cameroon, and that they should think of mounting pressure for this to be sorted out. But should energy be spent on looking at what the French failed to do and what they have to come and do here?
No, I don't think so. The truth is, there are realities we have to face. We cannot be living in the blues. We cannot be living in illusion. There are realities from every ramification. The French will never, I repeat, give us what we want. The French will never be interested in this case. The French has communicated repeatedly through La Francophonie. Whatever La Francophonie represented in this country was what France represents. Macron came here and spoke about an Anglophone crisis passively. Very passive. That decentralization and continuous dialogue. Will bring the solution. So it is not even near the federalism we are asking in 1962, 61. It's not even near the secession some people are agitating for. It's not even near the confederation that is in the constitution that Senior Barrister Ashu pointed, which means amongst the three things we are gunning for, that is either secession, confederation, or federation, France, which happens to be the roots cause of this problem, is not even thinking about it. Then how can we be looking for a solution from somebody who does not even believe in what we believe in? That's the problem. Now, secondly, the British have been asked on several occasions, and they have spoken passively, equally. We don't want to be reminded of the things we did in the past. We're no longer interested in those things. Now, if Britain and France happens to be the pillars on which the crisis stands, and they are not interested in it, it means the common man, who is the Southern Cameroonian, has to start thinking for plan B. They used to say... How
about the United Nations?
The United Nations, the United Nations, to the best of my understanding, is a Njangi group of 5 persons who are not willing to touch each other's interests. Britain and France, that happens to be the pillars of the crisis here, are members of the UN Security Council. And you don't touch what belongs to those people there. That's the reason if America is flogging Ethiopia, Britain is quiet. If France is flogging Cameroon, Britain is quiet, because we are students. Everybody beats his own student the way they want. If France flogs Mali, the rest of UN is quiet. If Britain is flogging Uganda, the rest of UN is quiet, because why? These persons do not interfere in the interests of others. They will only end up sending communiques. They will end up writing to convince the world as if they are interested in the well-being of the people, but they cannot cross the boundary of each other's interests. Those are the political, diplomatic manipulations we already know. Now, understanding that we now are a group of persons left in the middle of the sea, between the devil and the deep blue sea, we should be thinking for independent ways on how to survive. Because looking for help from all those bodies is an exercise in futility. It is a dream of lasting peace that will never be achieved. It is important you know where you stand. When an orphan knows that he has no father or no mother, they start thinking on what to do. Rather than thinking in your mind you have a father that does not exist. That's true. So consider yourselves as orphans. How do you come out of the hand of this tyrant? How do you come out of the hand of this dictator? You now start negotiating something out of what you have been gunning for years, and there have not been any solution. What should the poor of Southern Cameroon sit now and start negotiating for? They used to say, if in the absence of a crocodile, you can manage a lizard. Take a lizard first before you start thinking of getting the crocodile. This is where we find ourselves. When we keep talking that there is a Swiss dialogue that will come from somewhere, I have a worry. But we keep thinking that some French will come from Anglo and be our savior, we are in trouble. Or some British will gather from somewhere, because the House of Commons cannot sit quiet. Those people have set up structures in their account that even if you take a dog and put as British Prime Minister, the system will still run, because the system is stronger than the individual. But not the case here. Those guys have built systems, but in Africa they have built individuals. And this is where we have a problem. So we are that, let me say, Southern Cameroonians is that man who entered the boat and the boat capsized in the deep blue sea, and then the only thing he has as a way of escape is a tail of a cobra, a crocodile. So let us start thinking on how to swim out of that deep waters.
Can I just echo what...
Let me take 2 messages. Mr. Liu, ask Senior Barrister that his party is all over Cameroon, but we are not seeing him here in Muyuka. Roger is writing from Yoke. Roger wants you to come and implant.
Let me give me that.
To come and implant the party in Moyuka. Yes, but the party is across the nation. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Nice program over there. Ahijo succeeded in establishing a one-party system in 1966, unitary state in 1972, was largely due to Anglophone disunity. Till today, Anglophones have never been united. Backbiting, character assassination, etc. France and French African countries don't practice federation. Federation is not a Frenchman's system of government. That is why it is very difficult for Cameroon to return to federation. Thanks. Gentle is a history teacher out there in Boya. Yes, you had to come in. Yeah.
Yes. Like Apostle Ambe said, look, what were the contradictions in Africa that informed the struggle for independence of African countries? The imperialist system, which was imposed on Africa, was a system that served imperialists, the Europeans who were here, right? Because of the uncomfortable nature of the system, nationalists emerged and struggled to attain independence. Unfortunately, in the case of Cameroon and other African countries, the independence that was proclaimed did not mean independence as such. Okay? Now, there is what is a continuation of the same system, which we call neocolonialism, such that those who were in power did not even have the economic base, or were not even there to speak for the people. They compromised the future of African countries, such that the very causes of the rise of nationalism were not articulated in post-independence period. Such that we cannot rely on any of the imperialists to come and help us solve our problem, because they will not solve it. The problems were created by them. Division, divide and rule.
Of course.
And so, like Apostle Ambe said, we have to take the bull by the horns ourselves. And what does it mean for the people of former British Southern Cameroon? It means that, I think the caller that talked about disunity also. The Anglophone community has to fight against the gods of disunity. The gods of disunity. Okay? I don't think there's anything wrong to establish a political formation or party. Call it the Anglophone Renaissance Party. One. Where all Anglophones will fall in behind that party.
Of course.
And whoever is put as the head, such that we can try to see, okay, if we win, if that party win all the seats in the southwest and northwest,
yes,
Senate, this, council, they will change a lot using the powers that goes to the institutions. As a matter of fact, I think some time ago I heard Barrister Bobala said something, which to him, yeah, he said something. An Anglophone president for Cameroon. Okay? If the present political formation,
I was one started it.
If the present political formation thinks of wants really to address this problem, why not make it such that the next president of Cameroon is an Anglophone? The people came together to, one side have produced two presidents. The other side are not even fought in the state protocol. They play second, third, fourth fiddles. And you can, I mean, you have the problem. You can address it better. The problem is in the unity of Anglophone community.
It's about I.
And
where is we?
The unity is not just unity in our meetings, the unity behind a formidable political structure.
Like Reform Party.
Okay. Good evening, Leo. Is that there are many historians reading different history books, or what I don't understand for us to go out of this problem, we should forget about history and look for solutions, because history will always keep us talking history. every day. Okay, Muhammad is writing from Kumbu. Good evening, Leo Apostle. Ambe talk with too much wisdom as far as this program concerned. I love the program. Okay, now we are talking about the blame game. 6 years, we are still blaming. Today, we are still blaming the French. We are blaming the this. We are blaming the that. Yeah, and Gente says that there was disunity that favored the dissolution of parties in 1966. In 1972, disunity backbiting. Anglophones united today. Has that disunity left Anglophones today?
That is a strength today.
Mr. Leo, you see, according to English table manners, when you are eating, don't talk. Who is the person eating fat from this civil war?
French.
The French. So
French.
what do you wanted to talk and say? What you wanted to say? What they are the ones eating fat. So like the English table manners put it, when you are eating, don't talk. That's why the French will never say anything. The English are also eating. They are also eating. That is something which many people don't understand. The House of Lords once raised this issue, and a parliamentarian in England said, "But Cameroon just signed a trade. England just signed a trade deal with Cameroon. There are many other things England is doing with Cameroon, so they are also eating, and they cannot talk." Now, let me come to what Dr. Laluh said here. The solution may come from an Anglophone president. Let me correct this here, because he said, Dr. Agubala just said, it was not Agubala who brought that thing. I was the one who mentioned this thing on Equinox, and many people called me a madman. Until this, he said Amugo, something, a man who took over and said, yes, but this idea is good. Now, we have all seen that this, what we are calling blame game, is due to the inertia of those in power who don't want to change the situation. Like you were saying that is it because errors were committed that we should remain in errors? Who is remaining in errors? The people in government. When you ask them to stop the war, they say a group of people should not be seen to dictate to the state. The state should not be seen as weak. Sir, let us call a spade a spade. If a father is wrong, let him call his child and say, "Oh, my son, I'm sorry."
So what
happens in the house?
So what are you doing to correct the divisive?
We are saying that. We are saying that those people who hold the opinion that an Anglophone presidency will not solve this problem, they are mistaken. They are woefully mistaken, because the person pulling the stakes is the president. If you have an Anglophone president up there, he will organize the environment, the enabling environment that will make peace reign. Because if the will comes from up there, that there should be peace, there will be peace. But if you have somebody who does not want peace, whether you do what, you can organize all Anglophone under a political party, you are wasting your time. Because even if all Anglophones stand under one political party, you can never beat the Francophones. Don't forget, don't fool yourselves. That is the reason why we create parties that are nationwide, because I mean, if you have populations pooled all over the country, you can win. But don't say all Anglophones inside one party will carry the day. I don't
Senior
think so.
Barrister, I will intercept it. I want to come in here, Mr. Leo. We are not talking Anglophones setting up an Anglophone party just for presidential office.
Okay.
When somebody does not have immunity and he rants, it is considered as noise. When someone has immunity like a parliamentarian, he writes, his stamp has weight. The reason why the US Senate writes, they have immunity. The why Congress writes, it has immunity. If all the seats in the English-speaking part of this country are controlled by Anglophone, they join write a letter for UN to intervene here. You will see UN there speedily. The reason why the UN has delayed its intervention here, because why? The persons who are agitating at the UN are considered as hoodlums. When the Anglophones who are parliamentarians recognized by the states pen down a report to the UN, I tell you, within days they will step here. Sure. We don't have that power in the parliament. If we take all the councils and all the regional offices, and as well as the municipalities, the finance we are going to have at hand to manage activities will be a threat. Sure. That is the reason why all the Anglophones who are parliamentarians and senators have been tamed not to react. If they react, there'll be there'll be a ripple effect. Sure. So we are not talking about, you see, I've spoken this thing since 2015. I'm just repeating in 2020. I'm repeating it. Another point we have to point out, we have to lay emphasis here, is that if Ahijo was able to gather more than 30 political parties to form a single party, Anglophones are greedy. For barely 13 divisions, they cannot form a single party. It's a shame. Take it from my mouth. 10 regions in this country, a single Hausa man was able to harness them in 1966 and bring them under one party. How come we, from 2 regions, we cannot form a single party? It shows greed, bigotry, wickedness, witchcraft, and hatred among ourselves. Let us break out of this cocoon of ignorance and act like Southern Cameroonians. That's the truth.
Okay, he had not landed. Yeah.
Yes, I was saying that under the present dispensation, we cannot count on people who have an interest to help us. And you see, if we have our own person standing up there, then he will create the enabling environment that can enable peace, that can make peace to reign. Now, for us to get to that place, with all due respect to Ambe's opinion, you see, for now like this, our region is plagued by a civil war. Somebody just asked me, Reform Party is represented all over Cameroon, but we don't see you in Muyuka. He is very right. Before the war, we had carried out door to door in Muyuka right up to Yoke. But when the war broke out, does he expect me to carry my team and manifestos to go to Muyuka? I don't have me gun-proof suit. I don't have armored cars that can protect me. So I only have to wait until such a time when there is peace in Muyuka for me to enter there. If he knows that there is relative calm, well, I organize and come down to Muyuka. But what we are doing now, which I want people to understand, is that in furtherance of the idea that an Anglophone presidency can bring peace to this country, we are trying to cover as much ground of the national territory as possible. And come the next elections, I think many people will have to have a rethink and vote in Reform Party, because this is the only party that can really bring peace to this country. We have the wherewithal, we have the plan of action, we have the capable men and women who can bring the peace. We have that intention to bring the peace. We are not under any person's boots, because that is one of the aspects. You cannot talk peace when the person who is talking is not free to talk in public. Yeah. They will tell him, if you want to talk, we'll show your pictures.
Exactly.
So they hold these our leaders with those their esoteric things. They're tied to mystic houses and all those type of things.
Okay.
So it is difficult for them to come out of the cocoon, as he used to say, and oppose the man who has been causing them to commit atrocities against their own people.
Leo, please tell Senior Barrister to change his party to a party for only Anglophones. He will be surprised by the millions of Anglophones who will join his party. The party should only be for Anglophones, not a party for those who speak English in Cameroon, to avoid delusion. Back is writing from Canada. Good evening to you. Back, good evening, sir. The program is a nice one. I want to say it's well. It will be very difficult for the Anglophone to come together, because the man from the southwest knows he has more than the one from the northwest. That is why the war is being called a northwest war. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo and everyone in the studio. I think this is the best proposal since the start of the Anglophone crisis from one of your guests. Anglophone political party is very important for Anglophones. We will take over all the councils and parliaments. The youths of Anglophones Cameroon are waiting to champion the idea. Davison is writing from Betois. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Apostle Ambe is a wonderful historian. I love the way he speaks. More grace to his elbow. Jonas is writing from Bafia. Good evening to you, Jonas. Greetings to you all in the studio, Mr. Leo. Some people want Anglophones, okay? Any message that is insultive, please, I won't read it. It's easy to sit out there and insult people here, but I would love you who is as courageous as almost everything to come here and be able to talk to the world, to listen to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the panelists. That's a wonderful program, Genesis from Bafoussam. It's not easy to have persons come and talk here, so if you undermine what they are saying here, please, I will not read your message. Apostle Ambe, we have 15 more minutes to discuss on this before we go to our next topic for tonight. What should Anglophones be doing today? What should Cameroonians in general be doing instead of blaming each other?
I think almost everybody is caught up in this web. We are calling it Anglophone crisis, but it's a national crisis.
It's a Cameroon crisis, yes.
It's touching everyone. It may be Anglophone as per the title, but it is affecting almost every Cameroonian. Those from the north, the east, the south are feeling the pinch of the crisis. They may be arrogant enough not to say it publicly, but we know what it has cost the economy of this country. And the economy of this country is not Northwest and Southwest. The economy of the country is the 10 regions of the country. And know that if it is involving the economy of this country, it means every individual is one way or the other touched. Secondly, the death toll in the crisis has not recorded only Anglophones. There are many people from other regions of the country also who have lost their members either through the military or through family members who went there and they are considered as black legs. So when we call it Anglophone crisis, it's Anglophone crisis because Anglophones were marginalized, but it's a national crisis which is affecting almost everybody. Now, if we acknowledge the fact that we are sick, that is the first place we'll start looking for cure. We have not acknowledged that we are sick. Because if we acknowledge the consequences of the crisis in the entire nation, then I'm very, very sure we'll start looking for solution. Nobody goes to a pharmacy when he's not sick. And you must acknowledge that you are sick before you go to a pharmacy. We have to acknowledge that we are sick economically. We are sick in terms of life expectancy.
Excuse me, I don't know. Eli, many persons are writing that there are issues with sound. Can you look into that, please? Well,
we are sick in life expectancy.
No.
We are equally sick academically. Mr. Liu, most of the authorities in Yaoundé, even Francophones, sent their children to the prestigious schools in the English-speaking sector of the country. As a matter of fact, the assimilation process was more of Anglophonizing the Francophones than the Francophones and Francophonizing the Anglophones. Because most of those who left Yaoundé and Bamenda and Yuan Baozam to school in Sacred Heart, Our Lady of Lourdes, St. Joseph's College, they went there and they started speaking but English. They learned the culture of the English speakers of the country. So you realize that because there was a level of stability and children left this way to go to school that way, we're instead Anglophonizing Francophones. I hope we understand it. Now that the crisis came, all those institutions are affected. Individuals have come back this way. Our children are instead moving now this way to learn strange, another culture. And now, if we acknowledge that all these things are very detrimental to every Cameroonian citizen, we will start looking for solution rather than looking for blame. They say, show me a man that blames everyone for his problem, I will show you a capital failure. Until you start assuming responsibility of what is wrong with you and start tagging people for being responsible for your failure. My father was not rich, and I couldn't just get out and say, I'll die poor because my father was poor. I had to take my destiny into my hands.
Your father made errors.
He made his errors, and I should not go and be brooding over his errors and then repeat the same mistakes. So what we need right now is, are we affecting life expectancy? Yes. Academically, yes. In terms of the economy, yes. What do we do? That's the problem now. It is almost every Cameroonian's problem. Every Cameroonian's problem. Now, to even think of the fact that we are sitting in Cameroon here, and prices are increasing, and some people are living in the diaspora, detecting for us, we are sick. We are sick for sitting in Cameroon here. The price of mayo has increased. There's no mayo in US. The price of rice has increased. There is no, the rice is not in the US. Now you are facing this casualty and you are sitting and looking for somebody who is eating free, fresh and fat. That's why I will blame every indigenous Anglophone in this country who have not come under a single banner to see what we're going to do with the problem. Let me tell you, when guns are smoking in Bamenda, they don't smoke in New York. They don't smoke in Washington, D.C. They don't smoke in Texas. They don't smoke in Oklahoma. The guns are smoking in Bamenda, in Gotutunja, in Bui, in Boyo, in Manu, in Fako, in Meme. We are the ones who are here who are feeling the pinch of the crisis. So to think of the fact that those of us who are on ground cannot even harness ourselves together either to come under a single Anglophone party like Dr. Lula said, or to have a particular civil society that can be as a voice to of the people. I think we have to start judging ourselves.
Okay. Hello, good evening, guys over there. I am enjoying the program right from Pendamboko. There is only one thing which I would like to achieve to the discussion is that Hijo and other leaders were being pressed and are bound to sign what they have been given to them and not in their own reasoning. And now the key solution to solve this problem is to release the jailed Anglophones leaders and go into the right thing on the table. Thanks. Your titles is writing from Pendamboko. Good evening, sir. I really like your program and keep up with the courage. Miss Vanessa is writing from Ikata. Okay, Ikata is after Moyuka. Yeah. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Senior barrister is the picture only good person in this country. Sedal writing from Kumba. Extend my greetings to him. Yes, he has gotten you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please, this sound is not the best. Shepherd Gideon writing from Bomenda. This one says, good evening. Apostle Ambe talks a lot of wisdom. The barrister, okay. Good evening to you. This one says, unlike his two co-panelists, Apostle Ambe is right. Let Anglophones stop crying over spilled milk and instead take actions to prevent more milk from spilling. Gilbert is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I love this program. It will help our nation. Is Mbappe writing from Malinde. Okay. Now, what should be the way out of the blame game syndrome?
The way out of the blame game is not to bury ourselves into history. While we are thinking historically, we should look forward. And the way forward, like we've been saying here, is for Anglophone consciousness, Anglophone unity. Anglophone constituting themselves as a people and facing the other people, not in terms of war, not with arms, but politically. Politically, there are two options, basically. One, we have said that, I don't like repeating. Either they constitute a party to have as their fundamental goal to address the Anglophone dilemma in Cameroon, or the political arrangement which allows for rotation in the office of the presidency. That is, since we've had two presidents from the Francophone zone, the next president should be Anglophone. And then thereafter, it should go back and it continue like that. Constitutional, like, yes, constitutional change, which would put this into law to give it a force.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kum. Strong educative program. Apostle Ambe is a genius. Chair Pius is writing from Bamenda. The last word on this topic before we move on to another. What should we be doing? Not just Anglophones, the government also, yes, because instead of blaming one another, yeah.
Mr. Kum, I want to refer Cameroonians to the example of Ireland. You see, Ireland had this war, this civil war, when they wanted to break away from Britain. And to come out of it, they created Sinn Féin, which was a political movement that ended up replacing the armed movement, and that ended up taking power in Ireland. And so you see, our case looks like that of Ireland. It looks like that of Ireland. So if we now, since the level of consciousness, of political consciousness is very high, if we can all move into a political party through which we are going to talk, we shall constitute a strong force that can have an impact on the national level. So I think Reform Party can play that role. We can do that. Somebody from Canada said it. We can do that. We are not sleeping. I'm in the Southwest for now, almost every weekend. We are working towards that. We are going to unite the Anglophones politically under the Reform Party, and we see to it that we are capable of making our impact felt at the national level.
Okay.
We should talk as one man. We should present our problems on the national table so that, I mean, our interests should be taken care of politically.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I want to testify that this is one of the best TV programs, and people like Apostle Ambe and the people who give, are the persons who give us what we expect. Just to say that it will be very difficult for Anglophones to come under a single banner because of envy, jealousy, and hatred has eaten deep into the minds of many Anglophones, especially those benefiting from the crisis. Mr. Ekole is writing from Bafusam. This one says, the sound is very clear. I get it very clear in Bafusam. Those not getting it should be connection from their end. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Good. Tata Franklin in Bermuda, I wish to thank you, Mr. Liu, and your panelists for this educative program, especially Apostle Ambe, who is very objective. Thank you. Yes, good evening, Mr. Liu. Yes, but we are moving on to our second topic for tonight. So many land issues here and there. You buy land, you construct, and you're told any day, any time that it belongs to another person. And yes, many tongues are wagging. There was something I was going to ask you, that if you were to look at the responses from those on the social media and those who are writing from men, that they appreciate you differently,
Yes.
Completely differently. I don't know whether it's because some people are under the bullets and others are. Yes. Yes, but Apostle Ambe, do we understand? Do you hear of these stories where you buy your land and if you are not too careful, another person comes up?
Yes, Mr. Joe, land in Cameroon is not for those who merit, it's for the powerful.
Okay.
I have seen people who are struggling in life, who are barely surviving, struggle, gather money, get a piece of land, and some influential person takes his authority and his influence to subdue that individual and seize the land. It's common. It's common in Douala, it's common in Southwest, it's common in Kumba, it's common in Boya, common in Limbe, common here in Douala. So you must be that powerful before you get a piece of land. Somebody maybe said, I will go and meet the Minister of Justice to buy me a land in his name. So that by the time somebody comes there and sees that he is connected to the land, the person will be afraid to come in contact with that land. That's a notion that somebody has, that you can only secure a land because you are connected to some top-notch individual, not because you have the money to buy the land. And there is a lot of marginalization we are talking about. It's in different stratas. This marginalization concerning land is that the rich rule over the poor, and the rulership is based on their influence and their position in the society. And that's why we see that especially state officials who have a certain level of authority who want to subjugate individuals. I've even seen people who have been driven out of family land because a so-called regional authority, a so-called divisional authority influenced the activity and was kicked out of the land. Now, who sells you land also matters. Somebody can sell you land and then another authority comes and kick you out of that same land. It depends on who is speaking. So there is this manipulation all over the...
Yeah, but no, let's take the case of the young guy who is actually weeping in Kumba because he is facing a situation of land. You construct a very huge building on a piece of land. This land is supposedly having a building permit from the city council. Oh yes, and how do you go through this and later on some authorities tell you that no, this is my land?
Well, land, first of all, we should know that it's a very important factor of production. All productive activities take place on land, and it is a factor of production that is not increasing. Is reducing. So when the population expands, that is how the land that's available diminishes. It is constant, it doesn't, but it's not increasing. Now, but the question is, how is a law? How is a law responsive to this problem? I'm not a legal mind. I think barrister will have something to say. Senior barrister, sorry, will have something to say here. But I think that those who want to invest on land, those who want to buy land, acquire land, there is need to make a good investigation to ascertain that the land belongs to the person who wants to sell, who is willing to sell it. so that when you buy it, you don't get into trouble. And even after paying for a piece of land, there are other things that you need to do in order to ascertain the ownership of that property. And so I think we should be careful when we get involved in trying to buy land from other people. And I think the law should be used in such a way that those who are administrative police, because in the Southwest, we hear DOs are involved, governors are involved. So it is like a network where you have people, strong men in these areas, using their position to expropriate land from those who the land rightly belong to. Mm-hmm. The case is alarming in Fako Division.
Okay, it's alarming in Fako Division, but we are talking Kumba.
Okay.
Senior barrister, this situation is also very disturbing, and that the young man has worked for 25 years, all his investments on a piece of land. He actually constructs a house, and today he cannot, he's not sure of owning that. He has all the documents, and people can go to Ewane to say whatever documents you had were fake.
Mr. Leo, we have to be very careful when it comes to land matters. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of force, it's not a matter of strength. The law is the law. In Cameroon, we have various categories of lands. You have state lands, mm-hmm. national lands, private lands. Now, Dr. Laluh said in Boya, you see administrators distributing land, grabbing lands and all that. You see, state lands are the lands that are managed by administrators. Mm. State lands. That's lands on which the state has a land title. For you to invest there, you have to pass through the senior divisional officer, who will ascertain whether that land is empty or not, and then give you conditions for that land to be sold to you by the state. The state has a land title. Mm-hmm. If you fulfill the conditions, then they will sign a contract between you and the state for you to become owner of that land. Mm-hmm. Then the state will now give you a dismemberment of its own land title for you to become owner. Mm-hmm. Now the national lands, those are lands that are subject to no land title. Those are lands that you go to the village and say, chief, don't sell land. Mm-hmm. Those are national lands. For that one, you have to go through the normal process of obtaining a land title. You pass through the DO, who will have to call the consultative board and all that. They prepare a file, then they send it now to the governor. If it is okay, then they send it to the minister. You have a land title. Now, when you have your land title already, that one is private property. So this gentleman who is complaining, he needs to give us the full facts of his case. We cannot just start discussing like that and blaming the mayor. I don't know the facts, because I saw somewhere that the minister talked of a land title. If there is a land title, that is a different issue. If that land has a title, then the city council mayor has an uphill task, because the law says a land title is final. You cannot retrieve any part of it, and you cannot attack it. So you have an uphill task. If there is a land title, you can only attack it before the administrative court for an error of the administration. Okay. You start by going to the minister. You have to write to the minister first and ask him to review the order that authorizes the land title, the issuance of the land title. If within 90 days the minister does not reply you, you are at leave now to go to the administrative court with your application for the cancellation of that land title. If the administration gives you vent, okay, fine. Then you can now, that land title is cancelled, you can now start the long journey to obtain your own. Because when they cancel the land title, it does not mean that it comes to you. No, it does not revert to you. I've cancelled it. Start now to obtain your own. So we need the facts of the whole facts of this case to tell this man, to advise him as to what to do. In fact, he should see lawyers. He should go to the lawyers instead of going on air, because he should see let him brief counsel.
He should see you. Can you help him?
Let him brief counsel. I am not advertising on air. He should brief. There are so many, about 600 lawyers in Kumba. Let him brief counsel. I trust my colleagues in Kumba know exactly what to do. They will advise him. If he doesn't find solution, well, he can see Mr. Leo, who will direct him to the appropriate quarters.
Okay.
But I think that we need the facts.
I think that these issues, I stumbled on also, I saw the story, and the story states that it has been a case since 2011, and that they went to court and the other party could not provide any document. It was dust and settled, only for it to be brought up now. Yes.
Excuse me, sir. I forgot to say something. This gentleman has a 3-story building on the land. Now, let me say that it is very, very important. That fact is very important because the land belongs to the person who, normally, all land belongs to the state. But when you have invested on the land, when you have valorized the land, that land must be given to you. So
yes.
Now, there's mayor of city council who wants to, who is laying claims on a piece of land on which there is a 3-story building. He has no chance. I'm sorry, he has no chance, because let him go even to administrative court. They will tell him that that land has already been valorized by somebody who has put up a 3-story building. So what is the reason that he is putting forth now to say that the land is his own? Because the state will ask, who put that land, who valorized the land? And they will say, but this is this man. Where is the proof? It's a 3-story building. So in fact, that young man who is crying, he should stay quiet, because he has a very good case, although I've not seen all the facts. From a prima facie, what I'm seeing, he has a good case.
Okay.
And it will be difficult for the mayor to overturn that.
Yeah, but when I saw the story, what also caught my attention is the fact that many persons who are out of the country, they get discouraged. I am a witness to a case where I actually I convinced somebody to buy land who is also out of the country, and today there is a problem on that piece of land. This is also very discouraging, and tomorrow we blame persons for not wanting to come and invest back home.
Yes, Mr. Leo, I have had a similar case like that from somebody who came from abroad, bought a land of almost about 48 million, and only for him to be told that the land does not belong to him. So people are very skeptical when they leave abroad to come and buy land here in the country. To me, I think they say absolute power corrupts absolutely. When people rise to the place of authority, instead of using that power to serve their community, they use it to settle their beef with their enemies. If that case was kept many years ago, in 2011, it only means that somebody has risen to the place of authority, that they want to use him to bring back the fire up. Should we be giving power to serve people or to marginalize people? Should we be giving power to frustrate the lives of the people who voted us, or we should be giving power to serve the people? I think there is an abuse of power in the country. People should not be given power to use against people. They should be given power to serve the people. And I think it is because the persons who are attacking that land now must have gotten somebody in an office that can influence activities. Since we live in a society where it is who you are that matters, and it's not what the law says that matters. Because from what Senior Barrister is recounting here, it is absolutely impossible for them to remove somebody who has built on a land for so many years. But it may not end like that, because we used to, somebody say, there are so many lies that have been told in Cameroon, that police is your friend, is not your friend. That bail is free, bail is not free. Those are some of the lies they told us. Yes, it's not free. Then now one of the things we are seeing also that they are exercising here, because people climb into power not to be a blessing to people, but to be a torment to the people. So justice is free. Justice is free. So, what I wanted to say, they say the court is a voice to the voiceless. It's a lie. The court is no longer the voice of the voiceless in the country, because the court now is rather used to subdue and instead torment the people. Because if somebody of that status who understand the law is going to eject somebody from a land that he has considered territory in there, then that's an abuse of the law.
Okay, that's an abuse of the law. Many persons are asking that they want you guys to talk more about the first topic. Can we just...
Mr. Leo,
yes.
This topic is very important because
it's equally important.
You see, our children who are outside there want to come and invest. It's very important because, like Apostle Ambe rightly said, people are afraid to come and invest. So we should clear this topic properly.
We have to, the laws.
Let us tackle it properly. Yes, I want to come to it. Just excuse me because normally it was Dr. Laluh who was supposed to have the floor. Now, let me say this. You say you were witness to a land transaction and today the land is in trouble, right?
Yes.
Okay. Before any person should buy a piece of land, please listen well. Don't go accusing people because they are powerful. Before you buy any piece of land, make sure that that land has a title.
Okay.
If it has a title, it does not end there. Please go to the Department of Lands. What the French man called domains. Go to Department of Lands. Ask for a land certificate, for a certificate of ownership.
Okay.
What they call this site certificate of propriété. Ask for a certificate of ownership. The certificate of ownership will write down all the operations, the legal operations that have been carried on that land. In that way, if somebody had mortgaged that piece of land in a bank for money, you will know. If another person had bought that land, it will be mentioned there. Now, that one is just indicative because operations may be pending. They can carry operations that are pending. So please, never you be in a hurry to give money. When you go, carry out your first investigation, give some time, and go and verify again. Because on the day you are coming, if they have sold the land 1 week before, it will not appear on the certificate of ownership. But if you give some time, like 2 months, and the operations have been recorded, it will appear. So never you go give money hastily. Take time now to investigate and allow operations that have taken place on that land to mature and be inscribed on the government books. Otherwise, you can come and buy a piece of land and later on they tell you no, the seller is no longer the seller. Because, for instance, you have a brother who owns a land. Then he dies. You start selling the land, he dies. His heirs now go and make a certificate of next of kin. They go to the land and change the land title into their name. Now, if somebody sold that land to you in the name of the dead man, or if the dead man is sold the land, but failed to sign the contract of sale before he died, the day you go now to go and change, to go and obtain your own land title, they'll tell you that that land title is no longer the name of the owner. You are in trouble. So you have to be very, very careful. Make sure you verify every detail before you give your money. If you are giving your money, make sure that that land is registered in the name of the person who is selling. There are some lands you can't say it is a global land title. Please find out who is the signatory to that global land title. Don't go and give your money to somebody. Then you come out and say you cannot have a land title because the signatories to the global land title died and have not been replaced. Please make your findings. That is the advice I will have to give. We should stop accusing powerful people because there are things that we are supposed to investigate before we carry out these land transactions.
Okay, Drummond writing from Boyas is asking that the person who is now laying claim on the land, where was he when they were constructing this house for all these years? Okay, Mr. Leo, the man of God apostle speaks not just because he's on the TV, but delivers the truth. I hail his integrity. Esong is writing from Abu Dhabi. Yes, but that's also the question. How do we allow someone to construct such a huge structure on a piece of land only to come today?
I think the action of the person who is laying claim or who is going to challenge the one who has already erected a structure there is an indication of moral bankruptcy in this country. Especially within the ranks of administrators. Like Apostle Ambe said, people use their positions not to better the lives of those around them, but to grab. I think there is a tendency in this country where people in authority and power prey on the small people, prey on the have-not. Okay? So I think it is a call. This incident should be a wake-up call for us as a people, as a country, to revisit our morals. There is a lot of religiosity. But even those who champion, those who head churches, elders, going tithe, giving so much in terms of tithe and others, when you see what they do with their neighbors, you weep. So morally, our society is sick.
Okay.
And that aspect of our national life should be, a focus of, our education system and all that it takes to build confidence among the people. People have lost trust in institutions, even the courts. You heard what Apostle Ambe said. It is true that what is on paper. There's justice, the institution of justice. But you see how people are frustrated when they try to seek justice through the courts. And that is why in some areas you see jungle justice, where someone is suspected of stealing something, he is beaten to death, which is equally bad. So we should think of a way to revive our moral standards.
Okay. Mr. Kung, greetings to you in the studio, welcoming Barrister Ashu, Emmanuel, Apostle Ambe, and Doctor. Good program. The topic we suffer, same here in Bamenda, double dealings. Greetings to Fru Divine, Fru Cho Clovin, Cho Fru Divine, Favor, in Fumbot, Pa Clement, watching from Nkwen. Good evening to you, Pa Clement. Glad to read from you. Hello, Mr. Leo. Please ask Senior Barrister that what if the land you are to buy is a virgin land without any documents? Patrick Ayuk is writing from Limbe. How do you go about it?
Well, that is a case where you go through the consultative board. You go to the DO's office, they give you the form to fill, you fill it. The DO will schedule the day for the consultative committee to come down to the place and inspect it. There will be land inspection, they will come there, then the surveyor will have to come and map out the place and determine the exact size of it. If they finish, the law provides a period for opposition. If there is no opposition, it will publish in the Gazette. If there is the official Gazette, if there is no the regional Gazette for lands, if there is no opposition, then your file will be sent to the governor. After a review, it will be sent out to the minister, and that entity comes out.
But is the process, how easy is the process?
Oh, it's very easy.
Okay.
The only thing is that, look, the thing is that you have to spend some money. Okay. You have to spend some money. That one is official. Okay. Although there is also some back there. But there is official money that you have to go. The surveyors that are coming to the land, they are government workers and there is government expenditure consent. Okay. But the practice is that those people who are coming there, you have an envelope for each team because surveyors department comes, lands comes, the DO's office. There are about 5 departments that come there. Then the neighbors and the chief of that area, they all have to come. Okay.
Hello, the new topic is very important on the land issue. It is killing so many persons in writing from Malinde. Hello, Mr. Leo. I'm watching the engulfing the various proposals. My worry is how can we talk of an Anglophone president in this dispensation when the ruling don't see it that way? Okay, the fact is that the divide and the rule strategy will infiltrate the whole thing, and even the idea of an Anglophone party for us to harness the Anglophones administration is a fallacy. Okay, but if you think that the government is playing divide and rule and you know it and you accept for you to be manipulated.
You have accepted the status.
Yes, I would like to address this question to the lawyer on the panel. If the mayor has a land certificate over the said piece of land and the complainant has built a house over the same land, who will the law favor?
Thank you.
No, Jacob is writing from.
Yeah. Thank you. There are 2 laws. There are 2 laws. The law number 74/1 of 6 July 1974. Article 8 tells you that any person, that law tells you that 813 sub 3 tells you that whatever you put on that land that has a land title belongs to the man who has the land title. Yes. Then law number 8022, ordinance number 8022 on encroachment on landed property says that whatever you build, that's article 2 and 3, whatever you build on that on the land that is subject to a land title belongs to the owner of the land title. And this man can choose either to own the property or to have you evicted completely. Have your building rooted out without any damages being paid to you. So it is dangerous for any person to go and be on land that is officially titled in another person's name.
Okay.
Don't go there and say, I have my money, I will fight. Sorry, it is a lost battle. If you know there's a land title, don't build.
Okay.
Because the law favors the owner of the land title.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Thanks for making me happy tonight. More grace. John is writing from Kumba. Good evening to you, John. Good evening, Mr. Leo. This is my take. A good constitution to defend Anglophones, Francophones can put many things in order. Jean is writing from Bamenda. Let's make a change. Joel is writing from Bafusam. Okay. Something about it. Good evening to you. No, the studio, I think the government should do something about the land problem in Cameroon because the weak are being suppressed by the stronger ones. Okay, thank you. Good. Just listening to your program from Nigeria, I want to assure you that there is no problem that cannot be solved by people. Accept such a people, not be at will to solving such a problem, be that of division, political unity, or land matter. Honorable Engineer Stephen Chuji Kim, writing from Nigeria. Good evening to you, Honorable. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Your programs are very educative, and Apostle Ambe is a wonderful man. Okum Oliver is writing from Edinao. Good evening to you all by Blessed Be at Batier. My greetings to you all in the studio. Thank you very much, Apostle Ambe Valentine Ngwa. With this issue of land, we need stronger laws that will help people and not stronger persons in the law courts.
Britain has been for 1,000 years without any civil war, because they had good leaders, but they had very strong systems.
Okay.
And I think if we have good institutions, even the poor man will be defended. That's the reason why there is a parliament for the poor in Britain. It's called the House of Commons. The poor man has a voice in Britain, and the poor man has a parliament that stands to defend his right. I'm yet to find out the parliament that defends the poor in Cameroon. I'm yet to find out the parliament that defends the poor in Africa. So we think we have to set up very strong institutions that can be able to can defend the poor, because the poor need a voice in the society. The courts were supposed to be the voice of the poor. But unfortunately, Mr. Leo, the corruption in the court cannot even give the poor man a place in the society. And that is the reason why, if at all we don't set up strong institutions that can stand to defend the interests of the poor, then we're going to be ruling the society where there will be a great gap between the have and the have not. That is where we have a challenge.
Okay. That is where we have a challenge. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and your dear panelists. We're talking about under the city mayor who wants to take a land, or we are talking about, I think we called him by a name if he's not fighting that for the council. Okay, we have not called a name yet, please. Good evening, sir. We are really ignorant of the law. Thanks a lot, Senior Barrister. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I really like your program. Good job. Clinton Fonda is writing from Bamenda. Mr. Leo, I love the lawyer in the program. Thanks this program today. Okay, thank you very much. Greetings to you all in the studio. This question is addressed to the senior barrister. What is the role of superior authority and auditors as regards those receiving envelopes from behind the scene? Are you sure they are not the ones spearheading it from behind the scene? Abdul Salam Salman, writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and your dear panelists. Are we talking about, okay, you have asked the question already. Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're talking about land matters. I hope that is where he's going to. The practice is there in all the consultative boards, and it is official, because you have official fees to be paid for lands, because for them to move their instruments, you have to pay some official fees. But the practice is that the people who have to come down have to be given envelopes. Don't ask me, I am not their ministers. I am telling you the practice in the field. I'm not their ministers. If you make me president, I will slam on this idiot with the heaviest hammer that exists, because I don't support it. But I am telling you what prevails. So if you want to buy land, please make provision for that. Otherwise, that certificate will never come out.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and all the panelists. In my opinion, I think the quarterheads who are on ground should be empowered so that before any land is being sold, the first verification is done by him, Clinton. Yes, but they also receive money now. Quarterheads themselves need money. Good evening, sir. I wish to know if the government grants land title on any kind of land. Brian is writing from Bafusam. Good evening. The problem in Cameroon began when the unification pretext or strategy in 1972 was used to gain unrestricted, unaccountable, unchecked exploitation access to the oil reserves. Okay, that is history you're going to. I hope that I will organize something between senior barrister and yes. Good evening, Mr. Frederick Nda, writing from Banga. Your program is so educative. Is there a book so that can guide us on land issues? There should be. There's none.
There are many. Yeah, there is.
Okay, there should be.
Land tenure in Cameroon. Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I wish to know from the barrister whether the land title can be changed and transferred to a buyer. I am Sir Emmanuel, writing from Bamenda. Greetings, Mr. Liu. Please ask the barrister that what should you do if you want to buy a land from someone who owns the land with no title and have been working there for more than 20 years, and the land is not having a title. Alan is writing from Bamenda. It seems as if we are going to organize a special program on land issues.
I told you it was very important.
Yes, many persons are also caught in that same web. Yes, Apostle Ambe, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Thank you for the privilege. My people in Tico, I will be in Full Gospel Church, Back Street 1, tomorrow for a conference. 5:30 p.m. Catch you there.
Okay. We also want to say thank you to you, Doctor, for coming.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Leo. Thank you, fellow panelists. Thank Cameroonian for listening, and I pray that we should look forward to solving our problems ourselves.
Okay.
God bless Cameroon.
Thank you, Senior Barrister, for coming.
Thank you. I want to tell Cameroonians that we should not erect exceptions into the rule. Please continue to have confidence in our courts, in the judicial system. We have good magistrates, and it is not everybody who is corrupt. There are some few corrupt ones, but as a general rule, all the magistrates are good.
Okay, all of them are good. We want to thank you all who took time off to watch this edition of the program. Thank you to the producers. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.